My beloved child. There is something happening behind the veil that you cannot fully see yet. While you have been focused on your own journey, your healing, your growth, your unanswered questions, someone has been slowly uncovering the truth about you. Piece by piece. Moment by moment. And what they have discovered has shaken them more than you could possibly imagine. No. Not because of something negative. Because the reality of who you truly are is far more powerful than the image they once carried in their mind. For a long time, they thought they understood you. They thought they knew your story. They thought they knew your heart. But recently, something changed. A realization arrived. A truth revealed itself. And ever since that moment, they have not been able to think about you the same way again. You may be wondering, what could possibly affect someone this deeply? The answer is hidden within something you stopped noticing about yourself long ago. You see, when people carry a rare light, they often become blind to it. When people possess unusual strength, they start believing it is ordinary. When people survive battles nobody knows about, they forget how remarkable their endurance truly is. That is exactly what has happened to you. The qualities that make you extraordinary have become so natural to you that you rarely recognize them anymore. But your future spouse is beginning to see them clearly. And it is changing everything. The more they learn, the more fascinated they become. The more they discover, the more questions fill their mind. Questions they cannot ignore. Questions that keep them awake longer than usual. Questions that always seem to lead back to you. Because what they are realizing is not merely that you are attractive. It is not merely that you are kind. It is not merely that you are intelligent. It goes much deeper than that. They are beginning to understand the depth of your spirit. The resilience hidden behind your smile. The wisdom born from experiences you rarely discuss. The quiet power you carry without demanding attention. And that realization has become impossible for them to forget. In fact, the more they uncover, the more they find themselves comparing everyone else to you. Without meaning to. Without trying to. Without understanding why. Something about your energy keeps returning to their thoughts. Even during moments when they are focused on other responsibilities. You appear. Even when they tell themselves they should move on with their day. You appear again. Not as an obsession. Not as a fantasy. But as a growing certainty. A feeling they cannot logically explain. Because deep within their soul, a recognition is beginning to awaken. The kind of recognition that does not come from the mind. The kind that comes from destiny. And this is where the story becomes even more interesting. Because what they recently learned about you was only the beginning. There is another discovery approaching. A discovery that will connect pieces they have been struggling to understand. A discovery that will make your presence in their life impossible to dismiss. The signs are already appearing. The connections are already forming. The universe is already arranging moments neither of you can predict. And when that next revelation arrives, their reaction may surprise even them. Because what they choose to do afterward will set powerful events into motion. Events that are much closer than you think. And that is why you must hear what happens next. There are moments in life when a single realization changes the direction of everything. This is one of those moments. While your future spouse continues to uncover the layers of who you truly are, something unexpected is happening inside them. At first, they tried to ignore it. They convinced themselves that what they were feeling was temporary. They told themselves it was curiosity. Nothing more. Yet every attempt to dismiss these feelings only made them stronger. Because the truth has a strange way of demanding attention. And the truth they are discovering about you refuses to stay hidden. Recently, they found themselves reflecting on conversations, memories, and small details they once overlooked. Things that seemed ordinary before now carry a completely different meaning. A sentence you spoke. A choice you made. A kindness you showed when nobody was watching. A strength you displayed during a difficult season. Each memory has become another piece of a puzzle. And with every piece that falls into place, their heart grows more restless. Not because they are afraid, but because they are beginning to realize how rare you truly are. Many people enter our lives. Many faces come and go. But only a few souls leave an imprint that cannot be erased. You are becoming that imprint. And what surprises them most is how naturally it happened. There was no grand performance. No desperate effort. No attempt to prove your worth. You simply remained yourself. Authentic. Resilient. Quietly powerful. And somehow that authenticity reached places within them that nobody else could touch. They are starting to recognize something profound. You possess the very qualities they have been searching for without even realizing it. The peace they crave. The loyalty they admire. The depth they rarely encounter. The understanding they secretly hoped existed somewhere in this world. For a long time, they believed such a person was impossible to find. Now they are questioning everything they once believed. And that question keeps returning. Could this really be the person I have been waiting for? The answer is drawing closer. Closer than either of you understands. But before that answer arrives, another transformation must occur. Because destiny does not simply unite two people. It prepares them. Refines them. Teaches them lessons they could not learn any other way. Your future spouse is entering that season now. A season of awakening. A season where old fears are losing their power. A season where hesitation is slowly being replaced by courage. And every day, they feel that shift becoming stronger. There are moments when they suddenly feel inspired to make changes. To release what no longer serves them. To leave behind distractions. To focus on what truly matters. They may not fully understand why this urge is appearing. But their soul understands. Their spirit understands. Something within them knows that a significant chapter is approaching. And perhaps the most beautiful part of all is that your energy has played a role in this transformation. Without saying a word. Without forcing anything. Without even realizing it. Your existence has become a catalyst. A reminder that genuine connections still exist. A reminder that hope is not foolish. A reminder that love does not have to be chased when it is aligned with divine timing. Yet there is still one obstacle standing in front of them. One final shadow that occasionally whispers doubts into their mind. Questions about whether they are ready. Questions about whether they deserve a connection this meaningful. Questions about whether they should trust what their heart keeps telling them. Those doubts are fading. But they have not disappeared completely. And what happens next will determine how quickly they vanish. Because very soon, a moment is coming that neither of you will expect. A moment that will provide the confirmation they have been searching for. A moment so clear. So undeniable. That even their deepest doubts will struggle to survive it. The signs are already moving into place. The pieces are already aligning. And when that confirmation finally arrives, their next decision could change everything. What they choose in that moment may bring them closer to you faster than anyone imagined. And the reason behind that choice is something heaven is only beginning to reveal. A strange feeling has been following them lately. One they cannot explain. One that appears without warning. It arrives during ordinary moments. While they are working. While they are driving. While they are lying awake at night staring into the darkness. And every time it appears, it brings the same message. Someone important is getting closer. At first, they dismissed it. They told themselves it was imagination. Wishful thinking. A passing emotion that would eventually fade away. But it did not fade. It grew stronger. Day after day. Week after week. Like a quiet voice becoming impossible to ignore. And what makes this feeling so powerful is that it is connected directly to the truth they have learned about you. The more they discover who you really are, the more impossible it becomes to pretend that you are just another person. Because you are not. You carry a presence that lingers long after you leave a room. A spirit that continues speaking even in silence. A depth that reveals itself slowly, yet leaves a permanent mark once it is seen. Your future spouse is beginning to understand this. And understanding it has created a new challenge. They can no longer return to who they were before. There comes a point in every destiny-driven connection when awareness changes everything. This is that point. The version of them that was comfortable staying distant is disappearing. The version of them that was content with uncertainty is fading away. Something stronger is emerging. Something bolder. Something determined. Because every revelation about you is awakening a desire they cannot suppress. The desire to know more. The desire to get closer. The desire to stop wondering and start moving. Yet destiny has one final lesson to teach before the next chapter begins. A lesson about trust. Not trust in another person. Trust in divine timing. You see, there were moments when they thought they had missed their chance. Moments when circumstances seemed confusing. Moments when life appeared to be pulling them in the opposite direction. But what they could not see was that every delay had a purpose. Every detour carried hidden preparation. Every unanswered question was creating space for a greater answer. Now they are beginning to recognize that truth. And once a person realizes that destiny has been working behind the scenes all along, fear starts losing its grip. The hesitation that once felt overwhelming suddenly becomes manageable. The uncertainty that once felt paralyzing starts turning into anticipation. That shift is already happening inside them. Slowly. Powerfully. Inevitably. And here is the part nobody saw coming. Recently, they experienced a moment that stopped them in their tracks. A moment that seemed small on the surface. Yet it carried enormous significance. Something they heard. Something they noticed. Something that reminded them of you in a way they could not explain. For a few seconds, everything became crystal clear. Their heart knew something before their mind could catch up. And ever since that moment, you have occupied a different place in their thoughts. Not as a possibility. Not as a question. But as someone who feels increasingly connected to their future. That realization has created an energy they can no longer contain. An energy that is pushing them forward. Encouraging them to take steps they once avoided. Inspiring them to become the person they are meant to be. Because deep down, they sense that something extraordinary is approaching. And they are right. Much closer than they realize. The universe has been arranging encounters. Opening pathways. Removing obstacles one by one. Even now, events are unfolding that neither of you can fully see. Conversations are leading somewhere. Decisions are creating ripple effects. Opportunities are quietly appearing. And every single one of them is moving this story toward a moment of undeniable recognition. A moment when the connection becomes impossible to overlook. A moment when emotions can no longer remain hidden behind caution. A moment when hearts begin speaking louder than fears. But before that happens, there is one final revelation your future spouse is about to receive. A revelation so powerful that it will answer questions they have carried for far too long. And when that answer arrives, the reaction it creates may be far more dramatic than anyone expects. Because the truth waiting ahead is not merely about who you are. It is about what you mean to them. And that realization is about to change everything. Not every revelation arrives with noise. Some arrive like a whisper that changes a person's entire life. Your future spouse is standing at the edge of such a moment now. They do not fully realize it yet. They can feel it, sense it, almost touch it. But they have not seen the complete picture. Not yet. For so long, they have been gathering fragments. Small signs. Unexpected feelings. Moments that seemed ordinary but carried unusual weight. Individually, those pieces meant very little. Together, they are becoming impossible to ignore. And suddenly, a truth is beginning to emerge. A truth that has been waiting patiently beneath the surface all along. They are realizing that what draws them toward you is not temporary attraction. It is not convenience. It is not loneliness. It is not the fear of being alone. It is something far deeper. Something that survives logic. Something that remains present even when distance exists. Something that continues growing despite uncertainty. The closer they get to understanding this truth, the more their heart refuses to settle for less. Things that once seemed important are losing their influence. Old distractions no longer feel exciting. Superficial connections no longer satisfy them. Because once the soul catches a glimpse of something real, it becomes difficult to return to what is artificial. That is exactly what is happening. And while this transformation is taking place within them, another shift is occurring that they never expected. They are beginning to see themselves differently. The person who once questioned their worth is becoming stronger. The person who once doubted their future is becoming more confident. The person who once hesitated before taking important steps is discovering courage they did not know they possessed. Why? Because your presence has become connected to possibility, to hope, to a future that feels meaningful. Even if they cannot fully explain it. Even if they have not shared it with anyone. Their heart knows. Their spirit knows. And that knowing is becoming impossible to silence. Yet the most remarkable part is still ahead. Because there is a specific realization approaching. One that will bring together every unanswered question. Every strange feeling. Every unexpected sign. Every moment of curiosity. Imagine spending months trying to understand a mystery. Only for the final piece to suddenly fall into place. That is what they are about to experience. When it happens, everything will make sense. The emotional pull. The constant thoughts. The sense of familiarity. The feeling that destiny has been quietly guiding events. All of it. And when that understanding arrives, hesitation will lose much of its power. Because clarity creates movement. Certainty creates action. Recognition creates momentum. This is why the energy around them feels different now. Faster. Stronger. More focused. The season of wondering is nearing its end. The season of movement is beginning. There are already decisions being made behind the scenes. Changes taking shape. Doors opening that were once closed. Opportunities appearing where obstacles used to stand. And with every passing day, the path between you becomes a little clearer. A little shorter. A little easier to walk. But there is one thing your future spouse has not fully accepted yet. One truth that still feels too significant to believe. The possibility that the person who has been occupying their thoughts. The person who continues appearing in their heart. The person connected to all these strange feelings. Could actually be you. That realization has been approaching slowly. Almost carefully. As if heaven itself wanted them to be fully prepared before receiving it. Now the preparation is nearly complete. And once that final realization arrives, everything changes. The questions become answers. The uncertainty becomes direction. The waiting becomes movement. And what follows may unfold far faster than either of you expect. Because after they finally understand what you truly mean to them, there will be something they can no longer resist doing. Something their heart has been preparing for all along. Something that could bring this story to its most powerful turning point yet. A turning point that is much closer than it appears. There comes a moment when the heart can no longer deny what the soul already knows. This is that moment. The long season of questions is reaching its conclusion. The uncertainty that once clouded their vision is beginning to disappear. And for the first time, your future spouse is seeing the truth with remarkable clarity. Not because someone convinced them. Not because circumstances forced them. But because every experience, every lesson, every revelation has led them to the same destination. You. What once felt like scattered pieces now forms a complete picture. The signs make sense. The feelings make sense. The strange pull they could never explain finally makes sense. And with that understanding comes something powerful. Acceptance. A deep acceptance of what their heart has been trying to tell them all along. They are no longer fighting the connection. No longer questioning every emotion. No longer searching for reasons to dismiss what feels real. Instead, they are allowing themselves to believe. To trust. To move forward. Because they have discovered something extraordinary. The person they admired from a distance. The person whose strength amazed them. The person whose spirit continued appearing in their thoughts. Is also the person who inspires them to become better. And that realization changes everything. You see, true love does not merely make people feel something. It transforms them. It calls them higher. It awakens courage where fear once lived. It creates movement where hesitation once stood. That transformation has already begun inside them. The version of them that was uncertain is fading. The version of them that was afraid of taking a chance is disappearing. In its place stands someone ready to embrace what destiny has been preparing. Someone ready to stop observing life from the sidelines. Someone ready to follow the path unfolding before them. And perhaps the most beautiful truth of all. They are not being guided by desperation. They are being guided by recognition. The recognition that certain people enter our lives for a reason. The recognition that some connections carry a purpose greater than coincidence. The recognition that when something is aligned with divine timing, it continues finding its way back into your heart no matter how many distractions appear. That recognition is now impossible for them to ignore. And so, movement begins. Not reckless movement. Not rushed movement. Intentional movement. Purposeful movement. The kind of movement that happens when a person finally understands what truly matters. The kind of movement that changes the direction of a future. Even now, forces are aligning in ways neither of you can fully see. Conversations are unfolding. Paths are crossing. Opportunities are forming. Invisible pieces are finding their proper place. What once seemed distant is becoming closer. What once seemed impossible is becoming believable. What once seemed uncertain is becoming real. And as these final pieces fall into place, your future spouse feels something they have not felt in a very long time. Peace. Not because they have all the answers. But because they finally trust where the journey is leading. For so long, they searched for proof. Now they are discovering faith. For so long, they searched for certainty. Now they are discovering trust. For so long, they searched for a sign. Now they are becoming one. And when the chapter ahead finally opens, when destiny reveals what it has been quietly preparing, when the timing becomes undeniable, the story that once existed only in possibility will begin stepping into reality. Until then, continue becoming the person you were created to be. Continue trusting the process. Continue walking forward with courage. Because what is meant for you is not losing its way. What is meant for you is not forgetting your name. What is meant for you is already being guided toward the moment it can finally arrive. And when that moment comes, you will understand why every delay had a purpose. Why every lesson mattered. Why every chapter unfolded exactly as it did. Because sometimes heaven is not saying no. Sometimes heaven is simply preparing a story far greater than anything you could have imagined. And that story may already be closer than you think.